Welcome to Guy Code, a podcast dedicated to imparting dad wisdom to my son, with your host, Koji Steven Sakai, and friends.
Welcome to episode number 10. I'm your host, Koji. Today, I'm bringing on one of my co-hosts from my other show, Midnight Watchers, and Jennifer Field. I'm pretty sure you've seen her in everything I've ever. I think she's the only person that's been on all my podcasts, so Slanted View, Best or Worst, and of course, because she's my partner on Midnight Watchers, she's already obviously on there. And now, finally, Guy Code. So welcome, Jennifer. Jennifer is an actor and an amazing human being. So Jennifer, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey guys, and hello to the Guy Code listeners. I've listened to a couple of episodes, love the show. I've always thought about having like a girl code sort of show, you know, it's just a fun idea. So yeah, a little something about myself. I'm from the Bay Area, San Jose, born and raised. I still have a lot of family and friends up there, so I try to go up as often as I can. I really consider that my home, but I've lived in Los Angeles for over a decade now. And I moved here to be an actress. And so I'm doing the thing, and every year I feel growth in my career as an artist and in my craft. And so I'm still here. I'm still at it. Yeah, still acting.
And you are a mother too, so.
I am.
Right? So you come from a place of understanding and knowing.
Yeah, so that's why I'm here today, I think, right? Because parenthood became part of my life, and it was definitely, I never even realized how much it would improve my own life, even for just sort of, maybe.
Well, today's our topic is Jennifer's idea, and it's one of my favorite ideas we've done. It's what our parents never told us. So, you know, my parents were pretty traditional Asians. They didn't talk to me about a lot. They didn't tell me a lot. Actually, one of the things about my childhood is I had no rules. I had absolutely no rules. I never had a single rule in my whole life. I'm the anti-Asian. There's no expectations and there's no rules. And so for me,
you mean you didn't get in trouble if you had a C on your report card?
No, my mom was like, if you go to jail, that's you, not me. That's your life, not my life. That's what she would tell me. And so it was crazy, but it was crazy not having any rules at all, because I had to make my own rules. You know, like it was actually challenging to live life with you know, I never got in trouble. I hardly got sent to my room. I could do pretty much whatever I wanted. I wanted to leave and do something. I just left and did it, and then came back when I wanted to. It was like there's no consequences.
You must have been like a perfect child, because they were we don't have to worry about him.
No, that was my parents' philosophy. That was just who they are.
What?
So because I didn't have a lot of rules. They didn't try to teach me a ton, but I do remember some of the things they did teach me. So that's why this is especially important. So Jennifer, why don't you get us started with your first piece of advice?
Okay, the first this one makes me laugh, guys. I don't know why it makes me laugh, because it's so simple. But the first thing is car insurance, car maintenance, and car insurance. Like I have to combine them into one. What I mean by that is, I know it's like California law that you have to have auto insurance, but there was actually a time in my life when I ran out of money and I let my car insurance lapse, and I kept ignoring that they were saying, like, I don't know, they probably sent me letters or something, you know, your insurance is going to cancel if you don't pay. And I actually had like this 2 or 3 week gap where I didn't have insurance, and I was actually a victim of a hit and run.
Oh no.
And I wasn't in the car, guys. Thankfully, I was in the bar. I was watching my friend's band down off of the PCH down by like Hermosa Beach. And I came out at the end of the night and my car was all smushed. It was parked on the PCH. And the moral of the story is, sorry, let me back up. There was a good Samaritan that saw it happen and took a video of chased the guy down, took a video or photo of it. So I got his license plate, and I ended up finding the hit and run perpetrator after some time. But in that night, I was like a freaking hot mess with my girlfriend. I was really, really like having a meltdown because I knew, I was like, wait a minute, I don't think I have insurance right now. And so if you have a hit and run and your car is totaled, you wouldn't be covered. My point is don't let, I wish my parents told me, don't let your car insurance ever lapse. Like that's something you should always have on auto pay. And so related to that was, there was this guy I dated, Joey Alioto. I don't know if you're listening, in high school. And he like had some nice, like, one of those Chevy SS or what are those, Super Sport or something. It was like a muscle car, and like his parents gave it to him, but he forgot to do oil change in time and he blew out the engine. I don't know if that sounds right, Koji.
I don't know.
Something where
I'm not a car person, but
I know. And he did something where I remember he told me that the car ended up giving out like after high school because he
didn't take care of it.
He didn't take care of it. So not everyone drives, but for those of you that drive, there's just one thing that parents did not drill into my head is if there's anything you got to keep floating and you got to make sure you pay is take care of your car.
Yeah, that probably goes for health insurance and all the kinds of insurance that you need, because you never, like, you don't need it until you need it, right? That's the bullshit about all that, is that the moment you don't have it is the moment that something's gonna like go crazy, right? Like,
I mean,
you don't
what
have
are the odds?
Yeah.
I've never been a victim of a hit and run, and it was during the time when I didn't have insurance. But fortunately, somebody found the guy anyway. But what insurance do you think is important besides health and car? Like, what are the mainstays?
I mean, I think those are probably the two. But I personally buy insurance for all the like electronics I buy because I'm so clumsy, and I make sure to keep it like someplace I know where I could get it, because I'm always gonna get it fixed for free. Like my computer broke because I dropped it and I had insurance on it, and so I got a new one. And so like I always do it. I mean, even though it costs like $30 or something, I always get it because I like my cell phone I lose constantly. So I have to get insurance on it. So I always do it, all of that. But that's just me. My wife never loses it, so it's fine. But my first piece of advice is similar to yours. It's I wish my parents told me that being an adult sucks. Well, one of the things that's different about this generation than the past generation is that in the past, the kids and the parents had two separate lives, right? The kids had their own lives. Like I would run around with my friends, and then even at parties, like at parties, it'd be like adult party and a kids party somewhere else, like in the same house. Right? Like we would run around outside, and the parents are drinking inside or something. And now, you being a parent, this. Like my kid is much more involved in my life, as so he sees all the stuff in my life now in ways that I never saw, like the shit that my parents were going through. Because
why?
Oh no, because that's just the way that we were raised different, right? Like now, like we're just much more like my kids' friends, parents are my friends now too. You know what I mean? Like, and when I take him to meetings now, right? Or I like, he knows about what's going on in my life in ways that my parents would never talk to me about. And so this is kind of like my advice for him is like, having a job is not as great as it sounds. And as BIG said, more money, more problems, right? We have more money, you should have more problems. And it sucks to pay taxes and bills. It sucks to take care of other people. And that's why, like, enjoy, the moral of the story is enjoy your elementary school, enjoy your middle school, and enjoy your high school, and enjoy your college, because that's going to be the best time of your life. You should have no responsibilities. You should, you don't have to pay any bills or very minimal bills. You're not, like all these things, like that's the time to really, really like, and I think kids now, they're much happier with they're much more content at their age. They've done studies on this. Whereas when we were kids, like I wanted to be like 12 so I could be in high school. I wanted to be 16 so I could drive. I wanted to be 18 so I could go, high college. I wanted to be 21 so I could drink. But but now, like you ask kids, like I don't care if I'm 60, my parents are still gonna drive. Like I don't want a driver's license even. Like my niece doesn't have a driver's license and she doesn't want one.
Wow.
It's a very different thing. So just number one piece of advice I always give is being an adult sucks.
I'm gonna start incorporating that into my parenting, because I should remind Abraham, my 7-year-old, this is the best year. I agree with you. These are the best years he will probably ever have up until age 18.
And that's the irony, is that you have like, you have more money as an adult, but you have more responsibility, right? It's not like
I know.
and you can't run around like spending all your money. You gotta like save it for taxes or whatever, you know? All right, so what's your second piece of advice?
Okay. Oh yeah. Second piece of advice is just one of those things about something I wish my parents told me is that relationships are tantamount to everything. So I think, again, I should reiterate, guys, during this whole episode, for anyone listening, all these things are subjective, right? For me and for you, Koji. So someone else's piece of advice that I'm giving for someone else may be like, oh yeah, my parents already told me that. So I'm just giving you my perspective. But for me, my parents were just not very social people, and they didn't have they don't really have a lot of friends, and so they didn't know how to teach me that relationships are like, they're the key to things. So meaning, I'm not saying boyfriend, girlfriend relationships, just like friendships, business relationships, colleagues. And what it means is that I found over time that it surpasses things. Relationships like sort of usurp money, good looks, even smarts. Like you can be mediocre or average intelligence or of average I don't know, wealth, and like relationships. It's like nurturing relationships. So just that. And I mean it in whether it's you need a referral to get a job at Google, or whether it's so that you have somebody that can loan you money when you need it, a friend of yours, or whether it's, you know, finding out about wherever the secret society bunker is if the world has an apocalypse. Because I always wonder about that. I feel like that there's some like underground society. There's like some place where like all the super special rich people get to go. Only the really Illuminati people get to go if the world shuts down. But you got to know somebody for that. I always think about that.
That's a good one.
There.
Yeah,
There's
it's like Deep Impact. I just saw the movie Deep Impact on Netflix, and they had something. I mean, they didn't have the Illuminati, but there was like a quarter, 250,000 of the people were people that were hand chosen. So
exactly.
Yeah. That's a good one. I like that one. So my second one is your major in college is meaningless. They say people, you know, because my mom and dad were very much like trying to get me to choose something really early, but you know, they say people change careers about 5 to 7 times. So and undergraduate degrees are worthless anyway in terms of like for your professional. Like I'm not doing anything related to my undergraduate degree. And so what my advice for my son would be is pick something you like that you don't mind studying and reading a lot about, and get through it as quickly as possible. Don't worry, unless you're doing like math or trying to be a doctor or something like an MD. Then you have to do like the classes that you have to do to get there. But like if you're just doing like a regular BA, a Bachelor of Arts or anything, then just get through it. Who cares? Like see something that you could do and do it well. Because even for graduate school, nobody's like, if you want to go to like something different in graduate school, you don't have to major in it as an undergraduate to do it, right?
No.
So it's like just get through it. Really, it's not as important of a decision. It feels very important at the time, but it's not important at all.
That's so true. You're so right. Wait, what was your degree again? Or was your major?
Mine was political science. So I
remember that somehow. That's cool though. That's cool. So you know a little something about all the shit that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit more educated in political science stuff, politics, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really help me in my life, you know. I should just majored in communications. But okay, what's your third advice?
Oh yeah, okay. Gosh, I feel like a lot of these are just these basic self-help, mantras, but just the things that my parents didn't drill into my head that I just had to figure out later. Okay, third one was take risks when you're young. So that whole thing, I remember like little turning points or opportunities in my life, little tiny things. And I didn't want to do it because I was scared of the consequence or the risk, or it was scary, or I thought it seemed like not a good idea. It's actually better to try something and fail or suffer from it rather than not do it at all. So there's that whole phrase about, wouldn't you have most people tend to regret not doing something than doing something. So when you make a mistake and you make the decision to do something, that's usually better off than like sort of, you know what I mean? So it's better, especially when you're young, because when you're young, you're able to like bounce back better because people are more forgiving. Oh, they're
Well,
just learning. Oh, she's
also
in
you
her
don't have
20s.
people. You don't have people to take care of. Like it's hard to do that for when you have a kid to take a
Yeah.
risk. You know, a lot of times you just
Yes.
have to do what you need to do. But when you're younger, you have less responsibility
Yeah.
and much more flexible. I mean, you know, like I could live on a couch as a 20-year-old.
Totally.
I can't live on a couch as a 45-year-old or whatever. I'm not 45, but you know, like,
Right. No, right.
it's too hard. It's just too, it doesn't work. My body doesn't work like that anymore. Right.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, there's even physically you're just more capable and able to bounce back. But it was just like there was this one time there was this opportunity for me to go to Korea for this beauty pageant. So I had already done a couple of my little pageants, and so I had connections and people knew about me. But I was getting to the age where they were like, you can't really do pageants anymore. You're at the tail end, right? Because you're supposed to be young to do beauty pageants and stuff. But I had a connection that I met through one of my pageants, and they were like, I need you to come to, the guy was like, I need you to come to Korea. He didn't have any curriculum or like lesson plan, actually not curriculum. He didn't have like an itinerary. That's what I'm thinking of. He didn't have like a whole official packet for me to enter this Korean beauty pageant. And so I was scared because I was like, this seems shady, or I don't know enough Korean. I can't go there by myself. But I look back now and it's like, what an adventure would that have been to get flown to Korea, try to enter this beauty pageant. Maybe I would have had some struggles with communication. Maybe it would have turned out to be a sham, but it wasn't. I mean, the guy was like a legit guy, but there was nothing, he was just not a very organized person. And so I didn't have anything to go off of. I just had to basically book a ticket to Seoul. And my friend Richard Tang even loaned me the money. He's like, I'll pay for your ticket. And he did. So shout out to Richard who paid that day. I'll never forget, because I was like, I can't afford it. And anyway, so just long story short is there was like an opportunity that I didn't take because I was scared. It felt weird. And maybe I would have suffered. Maybe I would have failed. Maybe it would have been a, big error, but I'll never know because I didn't do it.
yeah. My son will hate this, but I play YouTube motivational videos for him all the time. And one of my favorite ones is fail forward, fail often, which means that, failing and never doing it again is not the right kind of fail. It's like failing and then keep moving forward because you're learning from that failure. And the more times you put yourself in that position to fail, the better it is. So even, like I get on him a lot because my son's really good at jiu-jitsu. And, he could fight, he could beat most of the people. But what I want him to do is choose the people he can't beat. I want him to fight those people because those are the people that are going to make him better. But I knew, because he knows he could beat everybody. Like all these people, so one time he chose a kid that he knew he could beat. And I was like, I know you could beat him. You knew you could beat him. He knew you could beat him. And yet you chose him. And I'm like, that's not the way you choose. You need to choose to fail. But ultimately it'll make you better when you fight in a real tournament and you fight in a real situation, so that's a really great piece of advice. I like that. So my third one is my mom and dad were obsessed with winning stuff. And so my piece of advice was, winning isn't everything, losing is valuable, and just like I talked about right now, like putting yourself in positions to lose makes you better. Right? And that's what practice is. That's what working out is, right? Practice is just pushing. Working out is getting to your point in your body where you can't go anymore and pushing past that, right? And so my one of my motivational speakers I really like, his name's Billy Alsbrook, and he always says, even losers keep going when they're winning, right? He says the best champion are the champions that what he says is you should never be called a champion unless you've lost once. Because a real champion loses once, it comes back. A person who's winning all the time and they lose and they don't come back, that's not a champion. And that's what I want my son to learn, is that winning isn't everything. And I think my parents were so obsessed with winning that I didn't understand that it was okay not to, like, that winning, that like I would choose, as a kid, I would have chose the person that I could beat because that's what my mom and dad wanted me to do. But in reality, I should have been choosing people that could have beat me to make me a better, whatever, jiu-jitsu or math or whatever it is, to make me a better person.
I love it. It's just like an easy, like little soundbite to like say to your kids, you need to know everything.
Yeah. But it's not just that you're not winning is not everything. It's that put yourself in positions to lose and to learn from it. That's why
right. Go for the guy that you're not gonna. Right.
That's why one time my quick story is that I did kendo, Japanese sword fighting, and I was on the American team, and I fought but I had such a fragile ego that when I went to Japan, I lost for the first time in my life. And I came back and I could never win again because it was just like, it did something to me psychologically.
Wow.
And so like that, I think that idea of like winning so much, it's like, once I lost, it's like, I can't win. I lost. And so that's what I want that's why I was really happy when my son lost his first tournament, was that, no, this is like, you don't get a trophy for not winning, but look at what you learned. How are you going to get better? What do you, like, I'm not going to get mad that, I always tell him, I'm not going to get mad that you lost. I'm going to get mad that you didn't try. So like, if you lost, that person's better. Right.
Yeah.
But it's okay. There's always going to be somebody better than you. Right. So, like, you just have to fight and you have to try hard. But okay. So what's your fourth?
I'm going to use that with my kid because he's all into like winning. Okay. So number 4 for things I wish my parents told me was, they never introduced like the self-help books to me, and I was not raised really religious. So I didn't have anything sort of faith-based or spirituality based that I could go to. And I feel like I got to that late. And so I had a friend that gave me that book, and we watched the DVD of The Secret. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah. And it's kind of like pop philosophy. There's so many other really great self-help gurus and books and philosophies out there. So that's a really basic one, but that was just like an introductory one. And I didn't get to that till I was like 25 or 26. And I remember reading it and thinking, man, I wish I knew this stuff in high school. So that's my number 4 is like,
great.
I wish I could be introduced to, I don't think you need to, maybe when you're young, they have like children's spirituality, sort of like mindfulness training and stuff. But I think like early on, you should learn about those things, about how to change your mindset, how to change your thoughts, how to conceive the world, metaphysical stuff. Like, I feel like that needs to be something that, I wish I knew about it earlier.
That's awesome. All right. My fourth one is money isn't everything. That my parents were kind of obsessed with money. And my parents talked about money all the time. So it skewed my thoughts, and I think I was obsessed with money for a while. And I think that I realized later in my life that it's not about the money. And ultimately the most important part of money is being generous with it. And that's actually how you get more money, is actually being generous. Generous in being that, like, not necessarily charity all the time, but it's also just being like understanding that like money begets money. So, I think that like, that's something that I think is really, really important. It's not all about money. That's not, like, even though I joke and I do mean that it's better to be happy, or if you're going to be unhappy, it's better to be rich and unhappy than poor and unhappy. I get that. And I always tell my son to marry rich, but it's,
you do? Yeah.
I tell my son to marry rich, but it's, it's like, I think there's like, that it's not the end all be all, and it's not going to make you happy. Money doesn't make people happy. And I think that that's important. As long as you understand that,
right,
but money is what it is, then I think that that's what's going to be really, I think that's the most important thing that I think my parents really missed. Well,
yeah, because it makes you comfortable. That's what I think. It makes you maybe less stressed and you're more comfortable, but definitely doesn't bring like fulfillment and happiness and joy.
Yeah, like buying things doesn't make you happier, right? They've shown, actually, what makes you what cures depression, I think, more than anything, is helping other people. It's helping other people. It's doing something for somebody else. And it's like that giving of yourself is actually the best way to make, because it takes you out of your own mind, right? It takes you out of your own body and self, and you're helping somebody else. And I think there's something for I'm not religious, but there's something for the soul, or something that like does something for us. And there's a lack of connection between people sometimes. And I think that helping people solves that in ways that I think for people who are depressed, who've suffered that through that kind of stuff, it really helps. I wish somebody told me that actually when I was.
I mean, even you're telling me that now, and it's like, I've only heard that here and there. Like, I've heard it at times, but that's a great way of uplifting your spirits, is to be of service.
Well, that's why me and my son, we pick up trash every Sunday. for like an hour on our like all through the streets of our neighborhood just to because I want to teach him that.
No way.
Yeah, we have a picker upper thingy, but we make sure. I mean, I want him to make sure that he's like that he understands that there's service because we're not religious either, so we're not going to church and do service in that way. But I want him to serve other people. You know. Okay, number 5. What's your last piece of advice that your parents didn't tell you?
So mine is more like something, I guess it would have been more my mom's job than my dad to tell me. But I don't know if any of y'all have heard of the book called Why Men Love Bitches. But a colleague of mine recommended it to me, again, 20s. All these things you start figuring out, the car crash, The Secret, Why Men Love Bitches. We're in my 20s when it's like that's something that should have happened when I was at home still with my parents, right? It should have been instilled from preteens on. Anyway, so, and I'm not mad at them, right? Like they didn't know obviously any better. So basically the idea of, I guess my mom didn't really teach me what makes a man love you as a woman if you're a heterosexual woman. So like what I found out later was because my mom, I felt like she prioritized like looking good, like superficial, sort of shallow parts, like be beautiful, be thin, and that, you know, that helps you. She didn't like say it explicitly, but I felt like those were things she prioritized. And I remember as like a stupid, small-minded teenager, I remember thinking like there would be these girls at school and they were with these hot guys. And I remember thinking, why is that that guy like her? And just being a high school, small-minded, cliquey person, thinking, why did she land that man? And it's because it's not about that. As a woman, men fall in love with you, not basically what the book's about is being a bitch, but basically being like a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a man. I don't need it. You know, they have their own thing going on. The book basically breaks it down, like basically don't be too nice, don't always call back, all that kind of It's so funny.
That's terrible. Right? That's terrible.
It's terrible. And like, and there's like this really cool phrase, which I already knew intrinsically anyway. I was doing some of the stuff I was already doing, but it was like when in a relationship, when you're starting in the courtship stages, when you're dating someone, as soon as you guys have sex, the woman loses her power and her brain becomes cloudy. But if you keep holding off for months, for a year, whatever it is that's long for you guys, then the man doesn't have the control. So as long as you hold off, which I was always a prude, I was always waiting I didn't want to have sex early on because it made me crazy actually. So once I would have sex with a guy, it made me fall for him. So I already knew, it's just better not to. If
I had a daughter, that's my first piece of advice is don't have sex for as long as possible, because if the guy sticks around for like a year, he likes you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wouldn't wait around for a year unless like I actually really liked her, right? Like, I mean, it'd be like if I only wanted to have sex with her and I waited a year, I'd be like, why am I waiting a year?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I have to be really, really like into it, like for a year. But you know, yeah, that's a really piece. And actually, your advice made me change my advice. So I think that it made me think about something. So I think that, you know, my fifth piece of advice, my last piece of advice is around sex. My parents were just like, they were typical Asian parents, and they just never talked about it, and they made it uncomfortable and weird. And so I think that there's always been like this, like not like a weirdness or like an uncomfortableness about it, you know, that it's even funny because like my wife was joking with me. She's like, if you can't talk to your son about it, then we shouldn't have it, you know, like, because like you're not mature enough to handle it. And I'm like, that's really sad that, you know, like my parents couldn't, like, you know, like they never kissed, they never held hands.
Right.
You know, typical Asian parents. And like, and it was such a taboo and weird subject. And I think that they should have just, I mean, like it just comes off as really weird and odd. And so I think that kind of carried over to like my adulthood. in ways that like I was just like really weird and not weird and awkward about it, but kind of like I can't really talk about it. I could write about it in my scripts or I could write in books, but it's like when it comes to like push comes to shove, it's like it's still like almost like a taboo thing. And that comes from like years of like, and we're not even religious, which is weird, but it just wasn't something you talked about or like ever entertained or, you know, wasn't a normal part of life even.
Yeah, it is. It's a normal part of life. Why is it, especially when you're older or once you're at the age after you've hit puberty, you start really thinking about that stuff. It's not even just about the birds and the bees talk, right? Yeah. It's not about just that. It's more about, that's a good point.
Or even like talking about girls with me or giving me advice on like how to like, you know, for example, I told my son, I was like, girls are just human beings, you know, like just talk normal, like just be yourself. You don't have to like act like anything. You don't have to be anything more than who you are. And, you know, like, and because that's kind of what happens when you like make sex this kind of crazy thing is that it makes you kind of want to like, it makes you think you have to be more than or something else that you're not. And it took me a long time to realize that I could just be myself and you know, I'm not like weird and stuff, but you know, like, just, it's normal, right? Sex is normal. Dating is normal. Liking a girl or a boy or whatever is normal. And that's all part of the life cycle. And you're right. Like after puberty, like, I think it would be weird to talk to my son now about it, but you know, like puberty, like, it's okay. It's like, hey, you think that girl's cute? That's cool. That's normal. You know, like that's a perfectly normal. Do you want to look at porn? Well, don't do it in front of me, but you know, don't be weird about it. Right. But it's like, it's a normal part of life and that's okay. Right.
Yes. And that's what people fall in love with anyway, is yourself. And cause it's going to come out eventually. And people love if you're like looking to date, like people like when you just are yourself, you know, and like, there's no fakeness. And so it helps with that. And that's what's going to come out eventually anyway. But yeah, exactly. Like, why did our parents teach us like how to relate to, you know, a potential love interest? Yeah, that's something that, like mom, I wish my mom told me more things about how to handle men, and I had to just figure it out.
Well, I mean, you should figure it out yourself, a part of it, but I think it's like getting used to it, getting normal, like a normalization of it. Well, we went through 10, but one thing I always ask my guests now is, what is one piece of life advice that you would want to share with my son that we haven't covered, that could be about anything? And sorry to put you on the spot, of course.
Yeah. What's his name again?
His name's Takao.
It has to be a piece of advice, or can it just be like anything?
It could be anything.
Okay. Takao, I just want you to know that your dad is a really, really spectacular man. And I don't know if you'll ever get to read and watch all the things that he's made and that he's going to make, but you are really, really lucky to have such a creative person as your dad, because whatever you choose to do in your life, that's going to really deepen your understanding of the world and really enrich kind of your perspective of things and make you a really deep person. So just know that it's cool that you have an artist dad.
Oh, that's a great piece. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for coming on. And also, obviously, please listen to our podcast, Midnight Watchers, which is we review these crazy horror movies. I think the last one, this is going to come out next week. So I think next week is, what is it? Cannibal Holocaust?
Yeah.
So we review these really, really wacky, crazy movies that I get disturbed. I know Quentin, our partner, does not get disturbed. he's like child rape. It didn't bother me. I was like, what?
He's like, dude, he's seen too many movies, or he's just desensitized.
He's super desensitized. Oh, you have to listen to the Slanted View episode where we had a whole discussion about pedophilia, and I was like, he's like, yeah, it's fine if somebody has that feelings, like not obviously doing it, but having those feelings. And I was like, no, that's not okay.
Oh, because he's saying it's a normal. He's probably saying it's a normal part. It's a normal.
Like, as long as you don't act on it. Like it's like it's okay to like talk about because that's how you. But I'm like, no. That's like you can't even talk about it. I will like if you talk about it, I'm gonna kick shit out of you. You know,
I know. Weird. I don't even know what the psychology community thinks about that, you know?
I don't even know. But
oh my God.
So please listen to that. It's Midnight Watchers, and listen to. Be sure to rate and review and subscribe to this podcast. But thank you so much, Jennifer, for your advice. Maybe we could bring you on for some other advice in the future. Actually one of the things I do want to bring you up is I do want to do one about being creative with artists of different kinds. I love to I'd love to get advice from you about being creative as an actor, because I know you've been an actor and you've just like me, you've struggled and you've made. We've done things, we failed at things, we had successes. So, like getting advice around from somebody who's in the middle of the trenches, I think that's really important.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's been, and especially right now is interesting time, right? I mean, everything's just turned up on the side of the head because of coronavirus. So it's been interesting how to adapt even still.
Yep.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and you could now take care of your son. Sorry for taking you away from him.
No, I'm so sorry that happened. I thought it was all set up, and but thank you so much, Guy Code, for having me. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
Take care. Bye, guys.